client, we'll call that person a client at that time, will state an issue or a pattern that they really would like to change. Maybe it's been a lifelong pattern, maybe it's an issue that has really been bothering them of late, and they want to deal with that. And then I will intuit which family members we need to find representatives for, and I will suggest that to the client. Sometimes the client will, very obviously say, this is about me and my mother or my father or my grandfather or whatever. And so it's going to be pretty obvious. But because I've had training in intuiting which family members are implicated here, I will make the suggestions, and then the client will ask whoever in the room is willing to represent to be a representative of that family member. The knowing field is the space that we go into to access information that we could not know intellectually. It really is a right brain process. And it has to do totally with intuition and body sensing. And so when we are representing, we just open ourselves, and I will then ask you what's going on in your body, because your body is the place where this information is going to come through. It's not going to come through your left brain or anything intellectual. Your body is going to, and I'll give you an example. I was asked to represent somebody's mother, and I started moving around the room, and I was limping. And I didn't know why. But when you're a representative, you don't ask questions about it. I just found that I was limping. And later on, he told me that his mother had had a problem with one of her legs, and it was exactly the leg I was limping on. And so I was channeling her physical symptom. I wasn't in pain or anything. I just felt, and I knew I was representing too. When you're representing, you know that. So you know that if you have a symptom, it's not your own. Another example, when I did my first Constellation, the man representing my grandfather, who I never knew because he died at age 40 of brain tumor, which nobody knew, because I was bringing up a whole other issue, and they said, we need to bring your mother's father into the picture. So we did, and I'd never known that grandfather. And the man representing him in the middle of the Constellation started to get a splitting headache. He was out there with my mother's representative. And the representative for my mother was obviously a teenager. He was still alive. Right? And he had the splitting headache. And I whispered in the therapist's ear, died of brain tumor. And the therapist kind of smiled knowingly, well, yeah, okay, that happens all the time. Didn't say anything. And then the symptom went away by the time the Constellation was over. But the Constellation was all about my mother trying to get his attention at a time when she was becoming a young woman at 16, and he died. And so that affected me, that abandonment, because I didn't have any parental death early on, but my mother did. So that trauma gets handed down. So that was very significant. So I'm saying this because when you're representing, you will feel emotions that you might not have felt before. You might feel some kind of symptom that you might not have felt before, but it's not yours. You're channeling the ancestor that is involved here, and anybody can do it. This does not take special talent. You don't have to be a quote psychic to do this. This is absolutely a birthright that we have as human beings. And the indigenous cultures know this. They do this all the time. They just know it. They know that they can do it. Nobody ever told them they couldn't. Well, we didn't know it was an option, so now we're learning that it is. But believe me, I've seen people with no background in this work at all come in and represent and just do an incredible job of just channeling the ancestor. So that's the way this works. And it takes a great amount of generosity and openness to do it, to be a representative. And when you are a representative, you're getting as much out of it as if you were the client. So both roles, client or representative, are very rich in this work. You come away with a great deal. Often when somebody asks you to represent, you're gonna know in advance. Often people say, I knew you were gonna pick me for that part. I knew it. Now, one thing I wanna say is we're not role-playing. This isn't role-playing. If you start getting into role-playing mode, you're gonna get into your left brain and you're gonna start bringing your own personality into it. And we do not wanna go there. We wanna get our personalities completely out of the way so that we're just there as a channel for the person and the soul that we're representing.